Hello again, campers.
And welcome back to another week where we bring you a hair-raising story to remind you why there's really no good reason to ever leave the safety of your own home. Or if you're future Caitlin, your multi-million-dollar bunker.
No lies detected. I'm manifesting that.
Yes, I'm manifesting it for you so I can come visit and swim in your fancy
You'll
million-dollar
have your
pool.
own wing.
Yes, excellent. Away from my children and husband.
Oh, our children will have their own wing as well.
Yes.
Maybe different level.
Yes, we can have like a dumbwaiter and send them down goldfish and apple juice. Have a camera.
Well, if we weren't canceled before.
It hasn't happened yet, so there's still time to reform. Oh, gosh. And if you guys have been interested in the true crime genre for any amount of time, we would be shocked if you had not heard the name Maura Murray. On the freezing cold night of February 4th, 2004, Maura's black Saturn sedan was found abandoned along the side of a small town road in Woodsville, New Hampshire, with the airbags deployed and a rag stuffed in the tailpipe. In the years that followed, what happened to Maura Murray became sensationalist fodder for online sleuths and true crime content creators. Wild speculation of what could have happened to the 21-year-old nursing student and how her personal life could have played a role in her disappearance became indistinguishable from the facts of the case. Law enforcement's involvement ranged from disappointing to downright suspicious, and Maura herself got constantly regurgitated through the churning machine of true crime entertainment until her humanity became unrecognizable. The entirety of her family has endured unspeakable trauma, not just through Maura's disappearance, but from the never-ending tsunami of internet speculation and salacious attempts by the public to insert themselves into her story. Case in point, if you Google the Maura Murray case, one of the top things that still pops up is a blog post from 2009 claiming that Maura is not a missing person, but is leading a quiet life in Quebec and people should leave her alone. As we will go on to see, this is an absolutely ludicrous claim. As a near constant consumer of a variety of true crime podcasts, Caitlin and myself can say with certainty that we have heard the Maura Murray story covered on virtually every single one. And in February of this year, yet another podcast series on Maura's case was released called Media Pressure, the untold story of Maura Murray. But this time, it wasn't just another recycling of the same talking points we've always heard. Over Media Pressure's 8 episodes, Maura's own big sister Julie Murray tells the whole story, in a manner that centers the real person who tends to get lost in a sea of opinions from people who didn't even know her. And she interviews many of the people closest to Maura right before her disappearance, and whom have never publicly spoken before, to clear so many cobwebs of misinformation. Julie also doesn't discourage outlets like our own true crime podcast from telling Maura's story, which is why we are bringing it to you today in 2 or maybe 3 parts. We'll see how spicy we're feeling. But Julie does implore everyone in the true crime space to keep empathy as the cornerstone when we are discussing events surrounding the worst day of someone's life, and that we take special care to focus on facts and ask relevant questions that are actually going to help drive an ongoing investigation forward. And this goes without saying, we also highly recommend that you guys check out all 8 episodes of Media Pressure wherever you get your podcasts. So without further ado, by relying on the version of Maura's story from those who knew her best, we hope that Camping is Cancelled can do its own small part to place some truth into your ear holes. So let's get into it. Lights out, campers.
Oh man, the mountains call my number one. I'm just a life-size lottery ticket in the hand of the one.
Maura Murray was born in Brockton, Massachusetts on May 4th, 1982. Her dad, Fred Murray, was a star athlete and self-taught tennis instructor who worked in nuclear medicine as a medical assistant, and Maura's mother, Kathleen, was a kind and soft-spoken nurse who was strikingly beautiful. Fred and Kathleen married and had their first son in 1968, a boy named Freddie. 12 years after Freddie was born, they had 3 girls back-to-back several years later.
Kathleen is a saint. Hail to the no.
No.
Oh, man. That's impressive.
Kathleen, Julie, and Maura. And a few years later, the baby of the family came into the picture, Curtis. The Murray kids grew up in a small town of Hanson, Massachusetts, which at the time pretty much consisted of a couple of stoplights and a Dunkin' Donuts. Maura's parents worked hard and money was tight for their family, but they always had what they needed, and the Murray kids were content as long as they had their bicycles and a few baseballs, and were pretty good at relying on themselves to make their own entertainment. Sibling story time. The Murrays had an old-fashioned TV set, and Maura's older brother Freddie liked to employ his little sisters to sit on the floor by the television and turn its knob to switch the channels at his request while he lounged on the couch. And then he would pay them by driving them to get ice cream cones. You know what? That's a good gig.
That's way nicer than I would have been. I'd have been like, you will turn the channels or I'll break this book over your head.
Maura was witty and quick with a comeback whenever her older siblings teased her, and she could often be found sitting on the floor beside the small bookcase in her room she shared with her older sister Julie, and twirling her hair while she read. From a young age, Maura was also an incredibly gifted athlete and extremely smart, but you wouldn't know that just by talking to her, because she would never talk about herself. She would always write thank you notes to people, and it made her very uncomfortable whenever her athletic abilities were brought to the center of attention. Once, on a family vacation to a ski resort, Maura, who had never been skiing before, hopped on a pair of skis, and after only 2 runs on the ski slopes, was flawlessly skiing from the top to the bottom of the mountain at full speed with no mistakes.
When Maura was only 7, her parents got divorced, and that was a hard transition for the Murray kids. But Fred and Kathleen went above and beyond to ensure that they both remained equally involved in their children's lives. Their mom worked nights as a nurse, so Fred would drive them to all their practices. Maura's grandmother, Ruth, was also a huge part of their life, and Maura loved her dearly. To her family, Maura had a special combination of personality traits. She was free-spirited and artistic, but also highly driven in athletics and schoolwork. And she was very good at setting goals for herself and doing the work it took to get there. One year, Maura ran in their town's annual Turkey Trot 5K, and she crushed all of the girls and the boys in her age division. Maura also had a tight-knit group of childhood friends who remained close with one another all through college. They all enjoyed, as her sister Julie says, quote, being type A classic overachievers, competing with each other for top of the class. One time, her older brother Freddie came home from college with algebra homework when Maura was only 10. Maura had not even begun to learn algebra concepts yet in grade school, but after half an hour of intently looking over Freddie's shoulder, he was dumbfounded to realize that Maura had picked up a pencil and was actually solving the algebra problems herself. Once she hit high school, Maura herself took advanced placement courses and tutored other students. She was in the Latin Club and National Honor Society and scored a 1420 on the SAT, which is nearly a perfect score. Good Lord.
Not me. Not me in the absolute slightest.
That is okay. Because if everyone was Maura Murray, the world would be a boring place.
I did co-start the aquarium club.
You did? Was that when you were in your I need to be a marine biology phase?
No.
Or marine biology. Look at me. A marine biologist. You need to just be marine biology.
No, I just wanted a free shirt.
Oh. I was about to be really excited if you had seen that TikTok where the girl is like, so did we all have a phase where we were like convinced that we needed to be a marine biologist with no context whatsoever? And it's all of us like millennials, like late Gen Zers. And I was
Yes.
like, oh my God.
But it was a mix of like Free Willy and
Yes.
Aquamarine.
Thank you. I said Free Willy, and for me also it was Zaboomafoo.
Did you know he has a granddaughter or whatever floating out there?
The lemur?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he's dead.
Oh, God. If he
Zaboomafoo.
wasn't, I mean, that show's like 30 years old now. And back to Maura Murray, who we're really here to talk about today. As older siblings are accustomed to do, Maura would get constantly teased by her two older sisters, which never failed to get her fired up. And she would be quick to respond with a witty comment to fight back for herself. But as a big sister herself to their baby brother Curtis, who is actually Kathleen's son and came into the picture after her divorce from Fred, Maura took her role very seriously. She loved to take Curtis along on what she called adventures, and she would do things like have him follow her on his bicycle while she went for a run, and she would run to a golf course close to their neighborhood, and the two of them would sneak out onto the green to hunt for stray golf balls after it closed for the night. Curtis also loved baseball, and Maura took it upon herself to do batting and ground ball drills with him constantly. And in true big sister fashion, she and her older sister Julie would make him do extra running when he messed up. Any excuse to like punish your little sibling. That's hilarious. Hey, but I bet it made him a better athlete though, so you know.
Honestly, the abuse that I received and I also relayed
Dished
to
out.
my sister was definitely worse than making your sibling run a little extra.
You were not molding them into a potential scholarship winner.
No. We were Fight Club, the bad girls club.
The brain cells were fighting to stay attached.
A scooter was swung at the head of my younger sister.
Ah! And you know what? She's doing great now.
She is.
She's survived and thrived. Love you, Madison. Maura would also sit with Curtis for hours and help him practice his handwriting, which he struggled with in grade school. And Curtis says to this day he writes just like Maura because of all the time she spent helping him. Oh.
All throughout school, Maura was extremely driven and was not satisfied unless she was getting A's across the board every single report card. Honor roll, achievement awards, athletic awards, all that stuff. As her dad Fred said, quote, Maura brought the house down and nearly swept every award every time. Maura quietly worked extremely hard to be better, faster, and more effective in any sport she played, practicing on her own for hours and setting school records in nearly every sport she played. Maura's dad always marveled at how quickly she excelled at anything she tried, but she always remained extremely humble about her abilities and hated to be the center of attention. Every summer, the Murray family would spend days camping and hiking in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Hiking was a huge part of their life, and their favorite spot was a place called Jigger Johnson Campground, just off Route 112. Fred had set a goal for himself to hike all 48 of New England's 4,000-foot peaks, and the Murray kids joined him and completed nearly every single peak.
Damn, that's impressive.
Maura and her siblings loved hiking so much that they truly regarded the White Mountains as their second home and felt most at peace there. Maura was especially good at making the more difficult parts of the trail fun whenever her baby brother Curtis would get frustrated and tired, and she always had a stash of trail mix.
Nice.
Outside of hiking, Fred was also an avid runner and completed 9 marathons in total.
Jesus Christ. Their dad is setting the bar very high. Like, if there's any question where these kids get their intensity from, 9 marathons? Hell no. But good for you, Fred.
Gosh. Where am I? And whenever he would come back from training for a long run, he would let Maura and her sister Julie go on his cool-down run with him. The girls were little at the time, so he would tell them they were running a whole marathon with him, even though it was just around the block. And Maura loved to sprint the last leg and pretend that she was finishing the Boston Marathon. Maura also played soccer, softball, basketball, track and field, and cross country.
So, girl was busy.
Her older sister and the one closest to her in age, Julie, was her best friend, and the two of them did everything together. As Julie remembers, the two of them were always on the bus together, riding to track meets, strategizing, and talking shit. Her dad truly summed up Maura's childhood best when he said that no matter what she took on, she insisted on being a full participant in her life.
As an adult, Maura's sister, Julie, explains that she since realized their family had a streak of addiction running through it, which is not uncommon for many families. And that sadly manifested in battles with alcoholism with their grandfather and eventually their mom, Kathleen. But for Maura and Julie, especially once they reached high school, Julie believes that streak was a big part of what drove Maura to the top in a variety of sports and academics. As a high school athlete, Maura especially excelled at basketball and track and field, making the varsity basketball team as a freshman, and as a sophomore, she qualified for track and field nationals and finished 33rd in her division in the entire country. Both Julie and Maura worked extremely hard to get top grades and scholarships, hoping they would be able to pay their own way through college and alleviate some of that financial burden from their parents. And they did. In the summer of 1998, Julie first got accepted to the U.S. Military Academy of arguably the most prestigious school in the country, West Point, which is fully funded and cadets pay no tuition to attend. When Maura and her dad took Julie to the bus to join all the other cadets headed to West Point, the older cadet in charge screamed out that families had 90 seconds to say goodbye to their candidate. And in true Maura fashion, she warmly hugged Julie goodbye, but out of earshot of their dad, gave Julie a wry smile and whispered, "Don't be a little bitch." That's a sister right there. You know what? That probably helped Julie to kind of calm her nerves.
When Madison, this is a little different, but when she went to basic training.
Oh, yeah, I forgot she did that.
Enjoy lesbian camp.
Oh, that's hilarious. Madison, who's the least, who's the most hetero.
I mean, we appreciate boobs.
Oh, 1,000%.
We appreciate a good
1,000%.
So she probably, she did say some girls really did enjoy.
Oh, Lord. Oh, that was the basketball team at my college. Not so much the soccer team that I was on, but I definitely thought, you know what? Good for them. Mm-hmm. Julie loved the rigid structure and high-achieving atmosphere of the military academy, and she raved about it to Maura in letters home and whenever Maura would drive up to West Point to visit Julie. Maura herself eventually received track team recruiting letters and full ride scholarship offers from every top school in the country, including Harvard, Brown, and Yale. Her dad actually encouraged her to pursue Yale, which was closest to home. But for Maura, her college choice was a no-brainer. She wanted to be at the same school where her sister was, and Julie was thrilled to have her there. It seems like they had a dynamic where they kind of went off of each other and kind of used each other as like, you know, it was very good-natured and very positive because they were so close, but they really kind of like competed with one another.
It was a healthy competition.
Yes, and like used each other to push themselves.
And again, a healthy addiction.
Yes.
Versus other addictions that ran in their family.
Yes, and the healthy was because of the relationship that they had. It wasn't a toxic competitiveness. It was
very supportive.
Yes, and I really like hearing about that. And their bond must have been very tight for you to want to follow your sister to a school like freaking West Point. No, thank you, ma'am. Very grateful for all you West Point people, but hell no. Hell no. I would be crying at a ball on the floor day one. Or I would punch someone in the hoo-ha because I would have enough, and then I would be in the brig or whatever they do there.
I just talk back too much.
Oh. Yeah, can you imagine, Caitlin, you being in a line at West Point and some upperclassmen like screaming in your face relentlessly? Oh.
I'm just not cut out for the military.
No.
I'm just not.
That's okay. Not everyone is.
Do not tell me what to do. And do not yell at me.
But I would devour a reality show of Caitlin goes to West Point. I would devour. That would be good entertainment.
Oh, I would be shit talked so hard. Like, what a pussy ass bitch.
Oh.
And it'd be like, I'm not making my fucking bed. I'm literally getting back in it.
Your whole area just looks like a raccoon nest.
That's me.
Yep.
I'd bring George Cooney with me.
You wouldn't even be allowed to have him there. They'd probably light him on fire in front of you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'd go to jail. From the moment Maura stepped into the tightly manicured lawn of West Point in the summer of 2000, the only 4 phrases she and every cadet were allowed to respond when spoken to by a commanding officer were "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am," "No, excuse, ma'am," and "Ma'am, I do not understand." No matter what.
No.
Before the fall academic semester begins, all West Point cadets go through a full summer of what is ominously referred to as, quote, the Beast Barracks. It's a very intentional facet of the military academy, along with others, designed to either break freshman cadets, aka plebes, and make them realize they are not cut out for West Point life, or it instills in them a mentality of complete steel. For example, a cadet might be yelled the question, "Why is the sky blue?"
You just immediately imagining yourself.
I did.
Caitlin's face is red right now, imagining the rage of the stupidity of this situation.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Oh.
I couldn't.
And before anyone comes at us, yes, we understand why this system is in place.
Oh, 100%. And I respect it.
Yes, Caitlin is from a military family. I have family in the military. We love and support our good military. But holy shit, we would not do well here.
Why is the sky blue? No matter which of the 4 allowed responses they picked, the commanding officer's response would be that they were disgusted that you did not know the answer to their question, and they would demand you drop and give them 20 push-ups or something like that as punishment. Everything about the environment is carefully designed to push cadets to their breaking point mentally, physically, and emotionally. School books must be perfectly stacked, smallest to largest. Sleep and downtime are rare and precious commodities, and cookies are considered contraband. So George Clooney, definitely not allowed.
Definitely not. Ooh.
Running is also a huge aspect of the Beast Barracks summer, and Maura quickly earned the respect of her classmates and upperclassmen by falling immediately into the fastest running group with only a handful of other female cadets. She also had to memorize and recite on demand a vast array of what West Point calls plebe knowledge, which was all sorts of random Army facts, quotes from history, and West Point information. Thanks to her sister Julie, though, Maura arrived prepared to a certain degree for what to expect, and before she was even accepted, Maura had already memorized Julie's plebe knowledge handbook and had mastered how to shine shoes, prepare her uniform, and make a bed according to West Point standards. I just, now all I see is Cadet Kelly.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And when that guy spits on the shoe, and she looks at him, she's like,
The sound of that loogie hawk
oh,
still
it was disgusting, but it was like, looking back, it's like,
oh, I felt something.
why did that make me tingle a little?
Oh, God.
Why?
Oh. What I remember most about that movie is I realize I just said that I am not gay, but what I remember most about that movie is Hilary Duff's boobs.
Okay, no, it was Christy Carlson Romano
okay.
that, like, I was like, she's kind of bitchy, but I like it.
Oh, yeah. I definitely loved her, but I just remember...
I'm gonna think of Hilary Duff's boobs.
I just remember it's because she was like, at my stage of life, I had 0 boobs, and she was like my same age, and I was like, oh my God, she's got planets. And yeah. And it was impressive. I mean, that was really all I had to say.
I think that's enough.
But I love that movie, though.
It's a great movie.
Yes. Julie was incredibly excited to have Maura at college with her, and she truly believed that Maura would love the environment of iron structure and hyper-competitiveness just as much as she did. But one afternoon, about halfway through the Beast Barracks summer, Julie stopped by Maura's room to sneak her some contraband cookies, and she found Maura sobbing after yet another of the hazing-type encounters with an upper-class cadet. At that moment, Julie was shocked to realize that Maura wasn't really happy there at all. Despite this, though, Maura gritted out the Beast Barracks summer and started her freshman fall semester with a full schedule of high-level math and science courses, on top of military leadership and survival swimming. God, no thank you. Once again. She also joined the cross-country and track teams with Julie, and the hours the two of them spent doing track workouts up and down West Point's hills felt like a getaway from cadet life. Maura quickly established herself one of the best freshmen on the team, and at first she was quiet and reserved around everyone. But long workouts have a way of quickly bonding a team, and once she started to come out of her more introverted shell, everyone was struck by how witty and goofy and fun to be around Maura was. One of her teammates, a girl named Megan Sawyer, said that Maura was the kind of friend who felt like a total safe space in the harsh environment of West Point. And even though she had an amazing work ethic, Maura still made her friends feel like they could really let their guard down and feel like actual teenagers. Despite seeming like a shoo-in for cadet life, though, very few people knew how much Maura was quietly, deeply struggling. At a place like West Point, any trace of individuality is stamped out to prepare its students for a likely career with the U.S. military, and cadets are molded to be polished pieces of a well-oiled machine. its intensity and constant threat of punishment for every minor infraction is unrelenting, and every waking moment is a competition for grades and status. The hazing and the screaming is constant. And ironically, the personality types who seem on the surface like they would thrive in such an environment, highly self-disciplined, competitive, tough, and focused, like Maura, can feel extremely whiplashed when that order and control that they are used to self-imposing is abruptly yanked away, and there is no period of easing into it. For most new cadets, they have less than a week between graduating high school and boarding the bus to West Point.
When the spring semester of Maura's freshman year began, the track team had a meet in Florida, and she and her sister Julie shared a hotel room. During this trip, it became apparent to Julie that Maura was suffering from disordered eating. Aw. Like many other young women thrust into the intense environment of the military academy, Maura began battling bulimia as a response to the extreme stress of having absolutely no control. So she turned to the one thing she felt she could somewhat control: food. Bulimia is an incredibly complex eating disorder, most common in teenage girls and young women, and can be triggered by a wide variety of factors. With bulimia, a person will typically have regular episodes where they eat huge amounts of food in one sitting, usually in secret. During this binge, they might experience a rush of pleasure from eating, but also have a feeling of helplessness and an inability to stop themselves. Afterwards, they may feel an overwhelming sense of guilt and quickly purge all of the food by vomiting or taking laxatives, which can bring an immediate but short-lived rush of relief and control until they feel the urge to binge eat again. It's a horrible cycle to be trapped in and extremely dangerous for a person's mental and physical health. Oftentimes, bulimia goes hand in hand with anorexia nervosa, another eating disorder in which the person suffering is likely to restrict their caloric intake to assert control, and may do so until their body is literally starving and at risk of catastrophic organ failure. Feelings of intense shame and going to lengths to keep the episodes of binging and purging hidden from other people are also a huge part of these disorders.
This was something that really hit home for me as feeling very connected to Maura when I read this, because just in the sense of like feeling as though I have a similar type of personality, that high achieving, kind of neurotic, obsessed, competitive personality. I, in high school and the beginning of college, also battled an eating disorder. And for me, it was anorexia, but was very much that same grasp at control. And in high school, very stressful environment, just because of a lot of things are changing in your body, in approaching the realities of college. I put immense pressure on myself to perform so that I could get a scholarship. There was a lot of things that were happening with the church that we were very involved in growing up. There was a lot of drama that really shook the foundation of my security, and I felt like I didn't have a feeling of safety and control in a lot of ways. And I was not self-aware of that at the time, but I very much turned to controlling my intake of food as a way to regain that feeling of safety and feeling like, okay, if I can control this one area, these other areas are going to kind of fall into place. And that never happens. And instead, you just end up basically falling into a place of deep suffering, and it's very much a lie that it gives you any sort of control. It just ends up controlling you, and it's very complex and it's very nuanced, and especially when you're a kid, which Maura is, at what you need more than anything is somebody older than you that gets it and is going to be able to come alongside you with zero judgment, because you already have an incredible amount of shame attached to that disorder, even though there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, because it is a mental illness. It is something that becomes a compulsion that you have no control of. So, let's continue this delightful topic. And when Julie herself realized what was going on with Maura, she was stunned. Many of her own friends also struggled with disordered eating, and she could tell that it was something Maura was very embarrassed about and didn't want to talk about. She never really opened up to Julie or her friends about it, and since Julie was pretty much a kid herself at the time, she didn't really know what to say to Maura other than, well, just stop it. Don't do that. And like we've said, that's not really possible. And this wasn't Julie trying to be a bitch. She was just not grasping the seriousness of what Maura was going through. But as we've said, getting over an eating disorder is far more complex than just deciding to stop. And sadly, bulimia would be something that Maura continued to quietly battle alone all the way up until she disappeared. The next summer, Maura was stationed at West Point's Camp Buckner, where cadets participated in more advanced technical training and exercises. Part of this training was a 1-week trip to Fort Knox to teach cadets about armor and tanks, and like every base, this one had a small commissary shop called the Post Exchange. One day, she and her friend Megan stopped by to browse at the Post Exchange, but Maura didn't purchase anything. On their way out of the door, though, Megan was shocked when a security representative grabbed a hold of Maura and said, "You need to come with us." Maura's face dissolved into terror, and Megan was incredibly confused as to what the hell was going on. Hours later, Maura returned to their company, visibly distraught and upset, and Megan found out that she had been busted stealing less than $10 worth of makeup, something that cadets weren't even allowed to wear at the time, like a nail polish or an eyeliner. And the weird thing was, she'd had plenty of money to purchase it in her cadet stipend fund if she'd wanted to. When Julie confronted Maura as to why she'd done it, Maura only looked down in shame and said, "I don't know." Julie's gut feeling was that this was a cry for help from Maura. She would have known that stealing violated the incredibly strict cadet honor code, and Julie is convinced that this was Maura's way of trying to find a way out of West Point without having to outright quit. Because she stole, Maura then had to attend the Academy's honor board, which is basically a cadet-run court system where violations of the honor code, like cheating on a test or stealing, are decided whether or not they are legitimate, and if so, they assign punishments accordingly. In Maura's case, she fessed up to the stealing immediately, so her honor board meetings were a matter of deciding what her penalties would be. Julie actually cried when she spoke as a character witness for Maura during her honor board, because she was so afraid of no longer having her sister at the academy with her. Like anything else at West Point, honor boards are a grueling process that takes weeks. In order to serve her punishment, Maura was having to walk hours upon hours back and forth on the grounds in a dress uniform in total silence, carrying her rifle and staring straight ahead. It caused her to miss classes, track practices, sleep, and studying time, and her grades and track performance started dangerously slipping.
While going through her honor board process, Maura met her eventual boyfriend, who was serving on the honor board committee, named Bill Rausch. Maura really cared for Bill, and in typical Maura fashion of loving to do things for other people, she would get up super early and literally run to the West Point Post Exchange, get Bill a hot coffee, and run back holding the coffee to give it to him before his classes.
Oh, that's really sweet, and I would never go to that length for someone. Oh, that's very sweet, though.
It is very, very thoughtful.
Yeah.
But this little fucker,
Oh, God.
Bill, actually ended up cheating on Maura, and Julie was livid when she found out, and she begged Maura to break up with him. But she didn't. When 9/11 hit and Maura and the rest of her sophomore class were faced with the extreme likelihood of being deployed into a war zone if she remained for her junior year, at the start of which she would be required to take an oath pledging 8 years of military service. Damn.
That's a big commitment.
Maura decided to leave the austere world of West Point and transfer to the University of Massachusetts Amherst in the fall of 2002, and she and Bill continued dating long distance. Now, if you're familiar with this case at all, you may already know that in the years following Maura's disappearance, Bill Rausch would plead guilty to a misdemeanor of simple assault on a coworker. That being said, it is very important that we mention that as of 2024, Julie Murray is adamant that she never witnessed any abuse whatsoever between him and Maura or heard Maura say anything that would hint at it. In the years following Maura's disappearance, Julie had even combed through their letters looking for anything that would hint at abuse, but found nothing suspicious. UMass was like a whole new world for Maura. Finally, she could sleep in if she didn't have class or practice, and could have things in her dorm that reflected her own personal taste, like a set of purple cow print sheets.
Very early 2000s.
Even though she rarely showed up to class late, it was a culture shock that she could actually do so without fear of a grueling physical punishment. Even though Julie missed having Maura with her at West Point, she was glad to see that Maura seemed so much happier there. She got accepted into their highly competitive nursing program and joined the UMass track and cross country team. As a part of the nursing program, Maura had to be able to travel to and from nursing clinicals, so her dad Fred gave her his 1996 black Saturn sedan.
Now that she actually had more time, Maura picked up 2 part-time jobs for extra spending money. One was as a security guard checking IDs at the Melville Hall dorm, and one as a work-study program at an art gallery working events.
How the ever-living fuck is she in a nursing program? Track and
Track.
field, cross country,
Yeah.
and 2 jobs.
And,
I dipped my toes into nursing school.
yeah, and has a boyfriend and a social life. If anything, that should just tell you the insanity of West Point, that she left there and that then she was like, oh my
This
God.
was freeing to
Yeah,
her.
this was freeing.
Wild.
Yeah, absolutely wild. Again, very grateful for you West Point people. We are not cut out for that. And I'm glad that she was much happier, but still, holy shit, that is a lot.
Gosh.
Being at UMass allowed her much more free time to spend with her family. What did we just get done
Is the
saying?
free time in the room with us? Because
Man.
did she sleep?
I
Did she go to the bathroom?
Apparently so. But man, It sounds like she had weekends, she had vacation,
Was
she had
time
all
different
kinds of...
back in 2002? I was watching Barney, so I don't know.
Well, hey, you know
I was
what?
6. Was I watching Barney? I don't know.
2002, we were not in the doom
Yeah.
scroll era yet. We were not
That's
in the
true.
TikTok era yet. So maybe with all the time
That's
she
very
wasn't
true.
just blindly scrolling on her phone, she could actually have a life.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was able to have more free time to spend with her family and could do some of the things she loved as a kid again, like hiking with her dad and helping her little brother Curtis practice baseball. Julie was stationed in South Korea, so I guess she did take that she took that oath of military service and graduated from West Point.
Hey, I'd go to South Korea over a lot of other places.
The political climate at the time. But Julie apparently loved West Point, and that was her jam, so very grateful for
awesome.
you, Julie. And Maura would regularly send her care packages and notes, and the two of them chatted all the time on AOL Messenger. She made really good friends with a girl named Kate Markopoulos, and the two of them spent a lot of time together outside of practices and meets. And she also made friends with a co-worker at the art gallery she worked at, named Sarah Alfieri. Maura was far closer with Kate than Sarah, but we mention their names because it's important that you remember them, because they will be important in the timeline immediately leading up to Maura's disappearance. And in typical college student fashion, Bill and Maura broke off their long-distance relationship and got back together several times. During one of Maura and Bill's breakups, she began quietly seeing a young graduate assistant track coach in a doctor program named Hussein Baghdadi. He was a proficient runner and a little bit older, and due to the coach-athlete dynamic of their relationship, they kept things quiet. He was often around at track team parties, and he was well liked by everyone, so they were often at the same hangouts together, but no one ever caught on that they were seeing each other. Even Maura's dad met Hussein and sat together for a while with him at a track meet, talking about running and a book that Hussein was interested in writing about running, and Fred never suspected that he and Maura were seeing one another. But their fling didn't last long, and Maura soon got back together with Bill. I feel like this is something that I want us to talk about briefly without speculating too much, because I want to be respectful of what Julie said and, not spend too much time on things that don't drive an investigation forward. But I do think that it's relevant to Maura's character and Hussein Baghdadi's character to point out that I don't agree with a lot of the chatter on the internet that this was some sort of wildly salacious, inappropriate, horrible grooming situation type relationship. I am not saying that it was green lights, yay, super
Was
appropriate.
it okay? No.
Yeah. However, was she being abused? Was he some sort of creepy predator? I don't believe so. He was a graduate student who is a couple of years older than her, and at this point, she's a legal adult.
She's a legal adult
Yeah.
who spent time at West Point,
Yeah.
who was accepted into a highly competitive nursing program.
Yeah. They're both runners.
She's very...
Yeah. They're both runners. They're both pursuing medical careers. Again, I am not saying it was appropriate because he was in that coach position.
Correct.
That definitely gets hairy.
But nonetheless, it's not a high schooler
Yeah.
and a coach.
Exactly.
It's a college student.
And a slightly older assistant coach who is also a college student. Again, it is, and to lump it in the same category of that the other things we just mentioned, I do not think that that is fair. And I think that that paints Maura out to be some sort of like, you know, I have seen in the deep dives I have done on the internet just horrible things said about her,
Oh
being
my gosh.
all kinds of words that I'm not even going to repeat because I think it's stupid, but I completely disagree. And I think that she found an appeal in him because he probably had his shit together more than guys her own age did. So
She had her shit together. She had
yeah.
nothing to gain from this
yeah.
quote unquote inappropriate relationship.
Yeah. And it didn't even last long, and they weren't even in an official like dating each other.
my gosh.
So whatever.
But yeah, go on a rabbit trail and
Yeah.
fucking pop off your opinions. She's disappeared. Like,
Yeah,
this has
right.
nothing to
And
do with that.
Yeah, and I don't think that getting hung up on him does anything to drive the investigation forward and their relationship. So that's really why I wanted to talk about it, is like, I don't think it's as big a deal in the grand scheme of the picture of what
No.
happens to her as everyone makes it out to be. So, anywho, I will stand corrected if I am, but I don't think I will be. And whenever things were back on with Bill, Maura would spend weekends at West Point with Bill's mentor family, the McDonalds, and she also visited Bill's parents in Ohio pretty often. According to Maura's friend Kate, Maura seemed much more invested in her and Bill's relationship than he was, and she described Bill as having a demeanor of, air quotes, stiff, which was a pretty stark contrast to Maura, who was bubbly and fun, but Kate never saw anything that raised red flags to her. And again, that could just be a personality type. I feel like a lot of guys who are that like stiff personality are drawn to girls who are more bubbly because
Opposites attract.
yeah, exactly. So I don't necessarily think that that's problematic either, or an indication of abuse.
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, I'm not saying I'm a fan of Bill because I know he goes on to do things later, but I think that that is completely separate from him and Maura's relationship. And yeah, again, we can speculate forever, but I think that from everything I heard her sister say, from what I've read, it seems like overall a very typical, normal college boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Kind of on again, off again, hot
Two
and cold.
young adults figuring themselves out.
One of them cheats on each other, like, but we're still the love of each other.
Oh my
Like, you know, that all that melodramatic shit. Like, you're still super young and stupid, and yeah, that was just, they were a typical college relationship. And if it wasn't clear before, when we were talking about Maura's childhood, that the White Mountain hiking trails and campgrounds in New Hampshire were a huge part of Maura's life and very important to her. She actually planned a trip for her and Bill to hike there so that she could take him to all her favorite spots.
In July 2003, Maura and Bill had taken a weekend trip together to New Hampshire, but Bill had to leave early for an army assignment in another state, so Maura drove Bill to Boston Logan Airport. In Hooksett, New Hampshire, she was pulled over for speeding high above the speed limit. She was given a summons to appear on August 27, 2003, fined $360, and had her license revoked for 30 days. Ooh, that would, with 2 jobs.
Nursing school.
Ooh.
So she had to be going high over the speed limit for them to do that,
Well, she
I
wasn't
guess.
jailed.
Yeah. I'm not really sure of New Hampshire laws, but yeah,
I don't know.
pretty serious.
In order to be able to legally drive again, she would have to submit a license reinstatement form in person. That's probably the biggest punishment.
Yeah, to have to go to the DMV in person. True that.
At the time of her disappearance, she would not have this completed, and these forms would later be found in her car at the scene of her disappearance. Shortly after she was pulled over, Maura suffered an injury that actually kept her from competing in a 2003 track and cross-country season. Even with rehab, her times began to drop, so she decided to step away from athletics and focus on the nursing program. Like any normal college student, she went to parties on campus, but after she disappeared, speculation about Maura's being a supposed, quote, wild partier got really outrageous and salacious. Her close friend Kate, who was at many of the same parties and hangouts as Maura, believes that many of the rumors come from the stories of Maura participating in something that was actually a decades-old tradition at UMass, where a group of girls who were track and field athletes would get together one night a year in the spring and do relay races completely naked.
So just some shenanigans.
Literally.
Yeah. I have definitely heard about this happening at other colleges as like it's not even like an initiation or hazing thing. It's just like a bonding
It's just having
thing.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? You're never going to look better than you do then. You may as well.
True. You won't catch me running naked anywhere.
You don't want anything flying up there. The possibility of a yeast infection is too high.
Inevitably, the cops would show up and they would all scatter in different directions, ended up at someone's house to get dressed and continue the night with a party.
Cut to some fucking Redditor being like, they were Satan worshipping out in the
gosh.
woods naked. You know people out there doing that shit.
Man.
Truly just some very typical long time existing university tradition shenanigans. Hey, that is far less problematic than the shit that happens at fraternities where these
We're
poor
forced
young
to
men,
drink like a whole bottle of whatever.
and then where people end up dead
Yeah.
and nobody says anything about it. Like, yeah, don't even try to tell me
like
that
there's
this
nothing
is,
bad about this story.
yeah, they're not hurting anybody, and you're not, as long
I'm
as you're
jealous.
not, honestly,
I wish I was fit and could run relays
you could.
naked.
Maybe we'll host our own.
Wilhelm race.
Oh Lord, Lord have mercy, a naked Wilhelm Easter 5K. I would. Oh.
Hard fucking pass.
But really, though, this again to me is absolutely no big deal. And if we're gonna talk about Maura struggling mentally, if anything, this would boost my mental health, not tear it down.
Completely.
This was not an indicator that she was like some girls gone wild, crazy person.
She's not at a party like shooting heroin or like
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. During everyone's winter break in 2003, Maura's close-knit group of high school friends met up at a restaurant called 99 in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and they all exchanged college t-shirts with each other. These were people that Maura loved and would truly be herself around, and to all her friends, she was her typical bubbly, witty self. There was no indication that anything was wrong, but that dinner with her friends would be the last time any of them would see her in person again. On January 29th, 2004, just 10 days before her disappearance, Maura sent an email to the same group of friends to try and get a group together to see the Dane Cook Show in Storrs, Connecticut on February 12th, 2004. According to Julie Morey, part of their original email from Maura said, quote, "Are you ready for this? Dane Cook is playing at UMass, and we want to get tickets, but it was sold out. I missed out again. But I did some research, and he plays in Storrs, Connecticut, February 12th. Tickets are $10 and go on sale Monday, so let me know if anyone's interested. I imagine they will be hard to get as usual. Take care, girls. Maura." The date of the show was 3 days after Maura would disappear. $10 tickets.
Yeah, we don't know what that's like anymore.
Take me back.
And Dane Cook was a huge deal at that time. So that's, wow. I would love to go to a show for $10. In spite of Maura's enthusiastic email and her thriving social life, the hold that bulimia had on her had arguably gotten even stronger than it was at West Point. It was a source of constant shame for Maura, and even though she had gotten a self-help book on overcoming it and was genuinely trying to get better, she never really confided in anyone close to her about her struggles, and what would happen next indicated that she really needed serious help. She went to great lengths to keep her late-night binges and purges secret, but eventually they would catch up to her. Maura ended up stealing the credit card number of someone in her dorm without her knowledge and used it to order a ton of food late at night, like pizzas and Italian takeout. Again, very typical behavior of someone battling an eating disorder. The binging, not the stealing, if that wasn't clear. But when the girl noticed unusual charges on her credit card, she reported it to campus security, and they actually tracked Maura down to her dorm. She immediately owned up to the theft, just like when she stole from the Fort Knox commissary, and as punishment, she was given 3 months probation as long as she demonstrated good behavior. And Caitlin, I feel like this is a good moment to bring up anybody that's familiar with this case knows about the air quotes mugshot photo of Maura Murray from this incident. And you can very easily find it. As soon as you see it, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But it's this horrible grainy black and white photo of Maura that was taken right when she was caught as being the credit card thief. And this photo has been picked apart and scattered to the four winds all over the internet, and people will actually look at this photo and use it to infer that, well, clearly Maura Murray was a sociopath, a narcissist, someone that was keeping this secret, like who she truly was, hidden from everyone else. And this photo basically, like, the mask came off of who she truly was. And the kind of person that would steal a credit card would be the kind of person that would, like, steal someone's identity. And that's why she's probably not, why she's alive. So, like, doesn't it sound absolutely ludicrous? And I feel like I'm only saying this because to save you the time of looking up this shit for yourself and wasting your time and giving these people clicks. But if you've listened to anything that her sister has said and attempted to have an understanding of who Maura was and what she was suffering from, I truly believe that if there's any emotion coming through that photo, it was just shame and fuck. Like, this is really embarrassment.
Like, being at your lowest point, just like,
yes,
the hopelessness, the fear, even.
Yes, absolutely. It is not a picture of someone that is like, I'm evil and
also,
the
like,
mask has come off.
A true narcissist or psychopath, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but
they're not going to immediately be like, yes, that was me, take full responsibility, apologize, try to be better. I'm not a psychologist, but
everything that we have been reading for the past hour, to me, has not indicated anything close to either of those two.
No, not at all.
Personality types.
No, not at all. I fully believe that, yes, she was suffering, and we can also say that she made poor decisions, and she knew that she was making poor decisions, and people have made far, far poorer decisions, and she faced the consequences of those decisions, and she owned up to her mistakes when she was caught. So to me, that says more about her character than anything else. And so,
I agree.
You know, fuck off all of the people that have all of that horrible stuff to say about her and that picture. If anything, it breaks my heart when I see it, because it just shows how much she was struggling and how much help she needed.
Like, put yourself in those shoes of, like, everything that we've read. All those struggles, all those blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then to have your picture taken in one of your lowest moments.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's see what, like, everybody has
Let's
to say
see
about
what you look like. Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you going to be standing there beaming? Hell no. And
Unless you're the psychopath.
And if she had been standing there beaming, then people would also have stuff to say. So it doesn't matter what she looked like. People are always going to say something, as we're sitting here saying something. But, whatever. Anyways, after this incident, Maura actually ended up having a wonderful Christmas with her family in Hanson, Massachusetts, and was really excited when Bill gifted her her very first cell phone and a pair of black leather gloves. Remember both of those things because they will come up again later. However, the Murray family had no idea that this would be the very last Christmas that they would spend together with Maura. And that is where we're going to put a pause on this story for part 1. Sorry guys, we know that was a lot of detailed information to take in and a lot of our chatter in between, but it's critical that we have a clear picture of who Maura Murray was and who were the people in her life, so that as we dive into the day of her disappearance and the theories surrounding it in part 2 and possibly part 3, I haven't decided, that Maura herself does not become lost. And in the meantime, if you have any information relevant to the missing person case of Maura Murray, please contact the New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit at 603-223-3648 or visit mauramurraymissing.org for more information. And as always, you guys can find us on Instagram at Camping is Cancelled, on TikTok at Camping is Cancelled. Send us a Gmail to campingiscancelled@gmail.com with your case suggestions or any thoughts, prayers, well wishes you may have. Blessings.
Be nice.
Yes, be nice. Don't forget, if you are enjoying our podcast, please leave us those 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really means the world to us. Like, share, follow, and share this podcast with your family and your friends that don't mind true crime horribleness. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Caitlin, anything to add?
No. Caitlin
is close to night-night. We're recording this late at night and a little slap happy. In the meantime, also definitely, if you can't wait for part 2 and you really want to do a deep dive into this case, I cannot rave enough about the 8-part series Media Pressure, The Untold Story of Maura Murray, written and performed by Julie Murray herself, with amazing sound bites and interviews from many of Maura's close family and friends. It's very gripping and moving and just fantastic all around. So yeah, definitely give that a listen. And that is what we used as our main source for writing this episode. So thank you, Julie, for speaking and sharing all of this wonderful information about your sister and her case. So catch you back next week with part 2.
Bye.